Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is ScopeSF and today we are going to be looking at some gameplay of the basically my current iteration of the MoggWarts deck, which is running Carrion Feeder, the Costly Plunder, Wedding Invitation, everything like that, and just kind of going over some post-game analysis, really, looking at the game as it happened, not while it's happening, actually, post-game analysis, but looking at the different moves that were made, how things played out, what I could have done better now that clarity's kind of kicking in, what my opponent could have done better, and then going from here. Full spoiler, this ended up being a 2-0 game in favor of me, so I did win both of those matches. But we're going to look at how exactly it happened. So, starting off with game one. Opening hand, definitely a keep. So, some people will look at this hand in most decks and say that it is not very good because every single one of my spells costs red mana. And I only have one red source, which enters the battlefield tapped, so essentially I wouldn't be able to do anything turn one, which is true. The thing about it is, this deck, once you start the combo going, you only ever really need the one red mana to guarantee that you can cast Skirk Prospector. After that, you're going to be using Skirk Prospector to get more red mana, and you'll see this. This is a good example in this particular game how this kind of plays out, because this deck, if you're looking at it as a persist combo deck, it's less about the setup and more about the sequencing. A lot of that is because Pauper game interaction is a lot different from Modern or Commander, but once you get the combo rolling, as long as you're clicking the correct cards as they're going through the game, then you don't really have to worry about color fixing as far as red is concerned. So looking at this hand, this is definitely trying to absolutely set up for the win. When I'm looking at least my version of MoggWarts, maybe a little bit less so for other versions where red and black kind of go hand in hand, the way to play my version of the deck is treat it like... So before the combo is going, treat it like a mono black discard or cycling deck. If you don't have the combo pieces, you're going to be looking to get your black mana out in order to try and find them. And once you are ready to start setting up the combo, start treating it like a mono red combo. All of a sudden, your black mana does not matter, as long as you're able to have the full setup that you can get the red mana out and get the red mana going, then you are absolutely going to win. Otherwise, so I have 3 lands, so I know that my next few land drops are, guaranteed. Otherwise, I already have pretty much all the pieces I need, really. Here's your payoff. Here is the card that actually lets the combo kind of happen. Here's another combo piece that it's necessary within this hand, not necessary within this deck, because we could have ended up with a Carrion Feeder, but we didn't. This is fine. Sacrifice Outlet. The only thing that we're missing is a Putrid Goblin, but we have the Tutor for that, which we will use. So, starting off with turn 1, I do believe I go first on this one. Play is obvious. Get the red mana out. Even though it comes into tapped, there's nothing that I could really do. I could cast a Skirk Prospector, but I don't know what I'm going up against for my opponent at this point, so it's kind of risky to get one of my necessary combo pieces out and about without any information. So just cast the tap land and then go from there. Boom. Alright, so turn 2. Start a little bit early. Okay, as blink and you miss it. Turn 2. Opponent plays a swamp, casts Duress. This is a really, really, really good opening. They possibly could have shut me down. They didn't. The reason is they absolutely took the wrong card. So with Duress, they have to choose a non-creature, non-land card. At this point, I have 2 lands and 2 creatures. Them being my Goblin Matron and my Skirk Prospector. So the only 2 cards they could have taken were Impact Tremors, which they chose, or First Day of Class, which is still in my hand. This is a complete misplay from the opponent that cost them this match. The big thing about it is, like, I understand that they're scared of Impact Tremors because Impact Tremors is also a value card. You don't have to get the combo going in order to get value out of Impact Tremors. And even then, it's a very obvious combo payoff, which, you know, this is what's going to deal the damage that kills them. The thing is, Impact Tremors, I'm only running 2 copies of them, and they are not the only payoff in the deck. They're not my only way to deal damage. I have the Flame Wave Invoker somewhere in the deck. Worst case scenario, I would tutor it up with a Goblin Matron. I have Carrion Feeders in the deck, which I have ways of getting them out, even after expending mana. Whereas, yeah, so there's basically, for lack of a better word, there's a lot of insurance with Impact Tremors, and if I lose it, it doesn't hurt as much as if I lost First Day of Class, which this is a necessary card. This is the one card that in the deck that really can't be replaced. I mean, I guess Putrid Goblin can't be replaced either, but at least with Putrid Goblin, you could tutor up with Goblin Matron. First Day of Class, I have to draw this thing. This is why I really like the Costly Plunders in addition to the Deadly Disputes, because it is brute force drawing. Like, I am going to draw cards with, you know, this current setup. And that's kind of, and realistically when I'm doing that, First Day of Class is the card that I'm hoping to hit. Hopefully even 2 copies as another form of insurance. So if you're ever going up against this combo, then First Day of Class is really going to be the card that you want to take every single time. Even if it doesn't look like I have anything else within this deck. I'm pretty sure that MoggWarts is the only deck that plays First Day of Class. So, you know, from my very, very, very limited information regarding Pauper. So if you ever see First Day of Class with a Duress, that's probably going to be the card that you want to take. And they didn't, which now I still have a First Day of Class in hand, and we'll see how the rest of the game plays out. Untap, play a Vault. At this point, don't really have any turn 2 plays. I could have played the Skirk Prospector, but again, I didn't have any insurance on it. I couldn't really replace it with anything because I knew I really wanted to save the Goblin Matron for the Putrid Goblin. That's like the one card I need in order to actually get the combo going off of, you know, out of this hand. Yeah, we'll just keep going from here. So opponent plays Dismal Backwater. Now I know that they are a blue-black deck, which is really scary because I hate blue. With blue, they're the ones with the access to the counter spells in Pauper, so they can absolutely disrupt me if they so choose to, you know, if they have the resources that they need. But Disruption is going to be a pretty big enemy to this particular combo deck. So at this point, I'm kind of not quivering in my boots, but raising some eyebrows, kind of shifting in my chair, seeing, what's actually going to happen. What kind of blue nonsense are they going to be getting away with? But from here, my turn 3, just going to play a land, play Goblin Matron in order to get the Putrid Goblin. I want to try to get the combo off as quickly as possible, so that way they have fewer opportunities to respond. So land, Goblin Matron, Putrid Goblin. They know I have it. So they untap, play an island, and then I think they evoke the Mole Drifter. Yeah, they evoke a Mole Drifter. I'm okay with them drawing back up to hand size, since I forget what that one card was. It was Gush or Daze or something like that. It was well, even then they don't have 2 islands. But in Pauper, a lot of the counter spells, since they banned the really, really dumb ones, are actually fair. So if you're going to hold up a counter spell, you're going to be holding up the blue mana to do it. But they really wanted those 2 cards, which is fine. I don't think they were expecting me to go off next turn. I don't even know if I was expecting me to go off next turn, to be honest. But the point is, they tapped out as a blue deck. So that is basically them giving me permission to do whatever I want on this next turn. So, next turn's going to begin. Pretty standard stuff. Pay 1 red mana for the Skirk Prospector. Going to tap a black, and I believe sacrifice the Goblin Matron for a red in order to get out Putrid Goblin. And then sacrifice the Putrid Goblin, tap this for black in order to get out First Day of Class, while the Persist trigger is on the stack. That's why sequencing is important in this deck. You can actually negate the Persist while the Persist is currently in the process of resolving for the first time. I know that's technically the way it works in every other version of the deck, whether it's Commander or Modern, Pioneer, or whatever. But I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Basically, like I said, this deck is less about setup and more about sequencing. We'll just leave it at that. So that's what I do, and I guarantee myself infinite red mana. Now, I do get a little bit of a lucky draw. I do draw the Flame Wave Invoker, which does guarantee me the win. The rest of this game is going to turn into, I get my combo set up, I get my infinite red mana, I cast the Flame Wave Invoker, and then I am continuously sacking to get mana to try and get to 40 mana, because I have to pay 8 mana in order to hit him for 5 damage. And I need to do that 5 times because of this single Dismal Backwater. He has 1 life. I guess realistically I don't need to do that. I could, because the, with the way First Day of Class is, the Putrid Goblin will get haste, technically speaking, as he comes in. So then I could just move to combat and then just attack for the 2 haste that the Putrid Goblin will have, and I would only need to get 32 mana as opposed to the full 40, but I wasn't really thinking in that line. I just wanted to blow everything up with the Flame Wave Invoker. That's what I was trying to do. I think opponent actually it took him a little bit, but I think he saw what was going on, so he conceded once I got to about 28 mana. So that was a bit short-lived, and I didn't, actually fully resolve the combo, but they conceded. It got me match 1. I'll click play and let the rest of this play out so you can kind of see exactly what happens. But the two big mistakes that the opponent made, they got rid of impact tremors, which, to be fair, if I didn't draw the Flame Wave Invoker, that was supposed to be my win condition. I don't need the infinite red mana from the Skirk Prospector. I need the infinite sacrifices and persist triggers from the Skirk Prospector and Putrid Goblin to get the infinite damage off. If that wasn't gonna happen this turn, I know that this is technically risky because I don't have anything kind of like threatening within my hand. My backup plan was, since I had Learn, I would have pulled out of my sideboard Introduction to Prophecy. Actually, no, sorry. That's wrong. Because, I would have recognized that I didn't hit my land drop. So what I would have done there is, I would have gotten Environmental Sciences. I think this is what I do. I get Environmental Sciences, use 2 of my infinite red mana to search my library for what would be a swamp, reveal it, put it in my hand, then shuffle, and then I would gain 2 life. I would do that to play the swamp, and then use that black mana and a red mana to cast one of the Deadly Disputes, sacrificing one of my artifact lands. Let's assume that I whiff. I still have a treasure token. After drawing the 2 cards, I whiff. I still have a treasure token, and I still have infinite red mana based off of this. I would have cast the other one. So between these 2 cards, I would have drawn 4 new ones. I would have sacrificed both my lands, but since I'm already going all in, everything or nothing within this combo, since I only have this 1 turn to do it, I'm banking on finding something within these 4 card draws. And that is pretty consistent enough, because worst case scenario, I'm drawing into more cards that, like I said, absolutely worst case scenario, they're card draw cards. Like, worst case scenario, I draw into a Wedding Invitation, or a Chromatic Star, or a Ichor Wellspring, and then eventually drawing into more Deadly Disputes or Costly Plunders or Unearths, which I would just cycle out anyway. At this point, the only things that I would have drawn that would have hurt would be more Putrid Goblins and more Skirk Prospectors. Even more First Day of Classes would have been fine, because I would use the Learn from those in order to get Introduction to Prophecy. So it doesn't look like I'm threatening anything here, but there's enough consistency within this deck that even if I didn't draw this Flame Wave Invoker, then I still would have been able to kind of keep going, keep churning through, and seeing, at least trying to see, finding an answer. So anyway, I'll just let the rest of this play out, and you'll kind of see where the opponent kind of realizes what's going on, and then just stops from there. So it turns out I actually drew the Introduction to Prophecy. That's a misplay on my part, considering I had 2 Deadly Disputes. I knew I had the artifacts. Actually, if I didn't want to, I didn't even need to sacrifice the lands for these, since I already had the Persist combo going, because with Deadly Dispute, I could sacrifice a creature. And I'm already doing that with the Persist combo here. So I lose absolutely nothing by trying to get Deadly Dispute off of the Putrid Goblin. So yeah, realistically, for the future, only because I had 2 Deadly Disputes in hand, I should have gone for the Environmental Sciences. That even possibly would have been risky if I had a deadly dispute and a costly plunder as opposed to 2 deadly disputes. Because the treasure tokens that you get from these are still really good. Anyway, yep, here it is. Game over. Got about to 28 mana. Just needed 12 more. Opponent, please, 12 more. And then just would have burned them to death with the Flame Wave Invoker. But yeah, that was game 1. We'll go into game 2 and see how that one pans out. Alright, so going into game 2, for sideboarding, I took out 4 Unearths and put in 4 Pyroblasts. Unearth always feels like a dead card to me. I know it's a utility card, but I think that's actually the reason that this one kind of always doesn't make the cut when it comes to deciding what I'm keeping in the deck. It's a great utility card. I can bring back pretty much literally any of my creatures within the deck that are in the graveyard, and I can also cycle it if I need to, but that's all it really does for me. It's just a little bit of utility. And I think within this matchup, because I know I'm going up against blue, I am more worried about their interaction as opposed to me compensating for their interaction. Kind of within the same vein, I didn't want to... This is a combo deck, so you don't want to thin it out too much. I think in some matchups, bringing in the 4 copies of Duress that I have are... that would be important, but again, I'm more worried about stopping their interruption as opposed to trying to prevent them from interrupting me, if that makes sense. I think that the Pyroblasts were enough, and I did draw a Pyroblast in my opening hand. I do end up using it. It does end up becoming really important. But we'll look at the game and go from here. Opponents going first, and they have a very impactful turn 1, which I will talk about in a second. Spoiler, it's a sideboard card. Okay, so still trying to figure out the controls for this one. Just at a quick glance, my hand is 2 swamps, red mana source. The red mana source will be good for the Pyroblast as I need it. I have enough lands to cast an Ichor Wellspring, which will at least draw me a card on the front end. If I draw into one of my sacrifice an artifact, draw 2s, this will draw me 3 cards total in the back end. Also have the Impact Tremors to kind of threaten pressure, which is exactly what I do end up going through this game, and I'll point that out, as we're going along. And then Carrion Feeder for the turn 1 play, which is what I go for from here. But opponent, they brought in Nihil Spellbomb. At instant speed, they can exile target player's graveyard, so they would be exiling my graveyard. This is a very, very good play from them. This puts a lot of pressure on me, because for the people who don't know how Persist combo works, the Persist creature does die. What Persist is it's a replacement effect for dying, but it still requires the creature to die in the first place. So, I guess it's not even a replacement effect, it's just more of a trigger effect. So it's a trigger effect for when the creature dies. So the creature does hit my graveyard. In response to my creature dying and Persist going on the stack, you can exile my graveyard. And then, all of a sudden, because Persist requires me to put the creature from my graveyard onto the battlefield with a -2/-1 counter, if it's not in the graveyard anymore, I can't do that. I lose the creature. So, it doesn't hurt as much within this deck, because again, I have Goblin Matron that I could draw into if I really needed to tutor for the next Putrid Goblin. But this card is really keeping me from... It's like walking through a stream. when you're playing this deck, going up against blue, because you don't necessarily know if there are sharp rocks underneath your feet. That's a terrible analogy. But yeah, they put up the pressure. They're threatening the combo. This, for all intents and purposes, might as well be a counterspell for them, which is absolutely fantastic. So we'll see how playing out the Nihil Spell Bomb works for them. Next. Carrion Feeder, nothing important. Untap, they gain a life, get a blue source, whatever. Play that. And I put down Impact Tremors, and then I hit them for 1. At this point, I'm kind of... So maybe I was a little bit too scared of the Nihil Spell Bomb, but based on the fact that they did have a Nihil Spell Bomb and the cards that they drew, the cards that I drew, I turned my thought process into a kind of more of a beatdown deck. The only thing I saw from them last game was an Evoke Muldrifter, as far as creatures are concerned. I could have sworn that, looking back at things, I could have sworn this was fairies, and I highly doubt that they would have gone 2 of these games in a row without playing a single fairy in a fairy deck. So I really don't know what they are. Blue-black something. Maybe just blue-black Pauper good stuff. I don't know. But they didn't show any kind of threats for creatures. So going in for combat damage, at least, pinging them for 1 for right now. And then, as I'm looking to play more creatures, I do have a Putrid Goblin in hand. I do have a Flame Wave Invoker in hand. Getting a little bit of extra value off of them with the Impact Tremors. And then eventually kind of swinging in with those cards. So they take a damage. Next turn, play an island. They're keeping something up. At this point, I kind of know that they're looking to get a counterspell of some sort on me. I am comfortable enough with that, because what I do here is I'm looking to play the Putrid Goblin, because for no more of a reason than when it enters the battlefield, I'm getting an extra damage. And to start off, it is a 2/2. So as long as this thing can kind of stick around, I am threatening an extra 2 power on the board, which opponents at 20 life, if they don't play any creatures or don't interact with anything at all whatsoever, then that puts them at a 36, 9, 12, 15, 18, 7 turn clock, which I don't know, that's not that impressive. But I'm also expecting to draw more things, which would be more relevant, including, eventually playing the Flame Wave Invoker. But for right now, Putrid Goblin, want to get it on the board. Because if they do have another way of interacting with it after I do cast it, then eventually I can at least get more value from it with it returning to the battlefield. Hopefully. I mean, they would crack the Nihil Spellbomb at that point, I suppose. But if it does return to the battlefield as a 1/1, I still have another 1/1 that I didn't have to pay mana for, and it's still going to trigger Impact Tremors, a second time. So, it seemed like a really good value play. I thought it was a really good value play. And because they have the basic island, 2 blue mana floating, I was expecting some type of counterspell. So for this, I just tap 2 swamps, get 2 black mana, get Putrid Goblin, and I still have this 1 red floating for the Pyroblast, which is pretty much how this next turn plays out. Counterspell, Pyroblast, get the Goblin, take a damage, hit them for 1. They untap. Don't really do anything. I guess they know that they expended their blue mana, so they're trying to get more counterspells out. This is... Sorry, lost my train of thought. This is where I'm just kind of looking to get a little bit more value. What I'm actually doing here is, so I played this land tapped, whatever. Pay 3 for the Goblin Matron. What I'm actually hoping to get off of the Goblin Matron is another Putrid Goblin. Because a second Putrid Goblin, if I do decide to go for the combo, that is what's going to save me from the Nihil Spellbomb. Because, let's say, I have 2 Putrid Goblins out on the field, and then I can recur them with first day of class. I'll sacrifice 1 to Carrion Feeder. They have a choice. They can either sacrifice the Nihil Spellbomb to kill the Putrid Goblin that currently has the Persist trigger on the stack. They can exile it. Okay, fine. I have another one that I will put up. And then just keep the combo going from there. If they don't activate the Nihil Spellbomb, then they never activate it. So I just get free reign of the combo anyway, and this creature's just sitting off to the side as kind of my life insurance, or I don't know, death insurance, or however you want to call it. He's not doing anything except being one of the biggest threats to the opponent's board that could possibly exist. Or if they're trying to wait for like an opportune moment to try and crack the Nihil Spellbomb, with me being an idiot and sacrificing both creatures at the same time, that's not going to happen. Even if they did sacrifice the Nihil Spellbomb while the first one was going, at instant speed, I could just keep the combo going, because in response to the Nihil Spellbomb being sacrificed and exiling my graveyard, I just repeat the combo again with it still on the stack, so it works out either way. So, cast the Goblin Matron to try and find a next Putrid Goblin. They're going to, counterspell it. I don't have any responses or any way of stopping it, but hey, that's fine. The Goblin Matron wasn't my biggest priority there. Counter target spell, that's fine. Get him for 3, pretty good. Augur of Bolas. Now this one would be interesting, because now for one thing, I cannot attack with my Carrion Feeder, because I would not deal any damage to him with it, and he would just kill it. So that's just me throwing away my own sacrifice outlet, which is absolutely stupid. And I can't really attack with the Putrid Goblin. Like, I could, but these two would just bounce off each other. 1 damage is not enough to deal with 2 toughness, and 2 damage is not enough to deal with 3 toughness. So, kind of at a stalemate there. If only I had that second Putrid Goblin to put on the board while he only has this 1 creature. So that way I could attack in with both. If he does block 1, he's blocking 2 damage, which is pretty good for him, but he still must take 2 damage. And who needs to be good at magic when you're lucky? Get some impact tremor triggers off. Like I said, don't attack that turn because there's no point to attacking. Alright, play land for turn. Drawing cards. At this point, I'm throwing this out. I'm really not expecting to combo off here. I'm too afraid of the Nihil Spellbomb, or at least I'm too concerned of the Nihil Spellbomb actually doing anything. I throw the Flame Wave Invoker out as a way to, 1, target impact tremors, but then 2, I can consistently put 6 power out on the board, which he can only block 2 of it, and he can keep doing that over and over again, but he can't block all of it. This is also very good throwing this out there, because even if he plays a second Augur of Bolas, I can still attack in with everything, and I still come out on top of the trade. But he gets scared of that, so what does he use? Doomblade. Yep, he Doomblades it. That's fine. I think that was actually probably his best play, if we're being honest, because all of my creatures that are out in the battlefield now are black. He has this Doomblade that has to destroy target non-black creature. That's a very situational card. Like, it's really good. It's instant speed for just 2 mana. But when you're going up against black heavy decks, and I feel like at least in Pauper, black might be the most powerful color. He doesn't really have any other viable targets. So maybe in some way he actually came out on top of that because I all of a sudden, by playing the Flame Wave Invoker, all of a sudden I turned this dead card into something that he could use it for, which he absolutely did. No big deal. We're just kind of back to the square that we were in. And then, honestly, I would rather he try and kill a Flame Wave Invoker as opposed to a Skirk Prospector, because with Skirk Prospectors, there is just more that we can do. So, combat resolves. He just takes 2. Okay. So, I don't know exactly... I wish I knew how to rewind. I don't know exactly if he understood how the full persist part works, but I put myself in that position, like I talked about earlier, where I have both Putrid Goblins out. So one of them, worst case scenario, one of them is going to eat the Nihil Spellbomb. He tried to do that with a Disfigure, which, he did. He killed off one of my Putrid Goblins that was a 2/2, and then exiled it with Nihil Spellbomb. But since the fact that this one was not dead, he had no way of, really stopping my ultimate game plan. The only thing he's stopping is more combat, but I don't care. Because now that his big bad answer to the combo going off is now in his graveyard, I have a lot more free reign to try and work with what I got. The only thing is, he still has blue mana untapped, and he still does have 3 cards in hand. Don't know what he expects to do with them, but he still has them. So we'll keep going. Uses Preordain. Draws a couple of cards off of Mold Drifter. Does not attack, because... I don't know. But now he only has 1 blue mana floating. So... this is my golden opportunity. His answer to my combo is now in his graveyard. He put in a lot of mana to, draw some extra cards, which is probably valuable to him. He probably drew some good stuff off of that, but now he only has 1 potential mana floating. I don't care about blockers, because for one thing, what would be happening? Let's say I get the first day of class at some point, which I do. I do win off of this turn. I am winning in 2 ways here. One is either... one is going to be, this would be the one that happens first anyway. Keep sacrificing Putrid Goblin to Carrion Feeder to get all the Impact Tremor triggers. Even if this didn't work, even if he had a way of getting rid of the Impact Tremors, I have Carrion Feeder, and every time that happens, every time I sacrifice a creature to make the Carrion Feeder bigger, eventually I'll just put him up to high enough that he can deal a ton of damage, and I have the Wedding Invitation. I'll sacrifice this to make him unblockable. So either way, I have 2 ways of winning on the board, and the only thing that's stopping me is a first day of class. So, get a Carrion Feeder. Doesn't do anything for me, so I just cast a Necker Wellspring to draw a card. The card I drew is Deadly Dispute. I definitely have the mana to cast the Deadly Dispute, because if perchance I were to get a first day of class off of this, then I have a red mana guaranteed for that, but then I also have another mana from the artifact, or the treasure token that it would generate. And that's pretty much what happens. So, drawing 3 cards. Oh, I also drew a land for turn off of the Deadly Dispute there. So now I have 3 mana floating, but the card I drew off of killing the Ichor Wellspring was indeed first day of class. Tempting to cast it now. I think I do it with both the lands there. It doesn't really matter what lesson I get off of this. I think I just drew this as more insurance, but yeah, it really didn't matter. I guess I wouldn't have had enough mana to cast Introduction to Annihilation anyway, since none of this is involving a Skirk Prospector, so I can't really play with infinite mana. And Environmental Sciences would not do a thing because I already played a land for turn off of the Deadly Dispute that I got. But, as it turns out, still drew the first day of class, cast it. Based on all the triggers that are there, I'm threatening the Persist combo with the Impact Tremors on the stack. So really, again, the opponent's primary misplay, they didn't handle the... so they messed up their turn 1, basically. And did not hold back the blue mana that they needed to stop my combo. That's the case it was for both games. In the second game, they just misplayed the Nile Spellbomb. I can't really say I blame them for it, because with 2 Putrid Goblins on the field, you need 2 Nile Spellbombs to... a Nile Spellbomb can only counter 1 Putrid Goblin. So they would have needed 2. And I get that's probably what they were trying to go for. It doesn't look like they drew it off of the Mole Drifter. Otherwise, they would have played it right off the bat with the Dismal Backwater. But either way, them not holding up more blue mana is really what hurt them in the end. Regardless of any of the counterspells, regardless of any of that. If I did not combo off of this turn, what I probably would have done instead was, I had the Carrion Feeder and the Putrid Goblin. I would have cast, next turn after I untap all of my mana that I have, would have cast Costly Plunder. Good card? Yeah, good card. And sacrifice the Ichor Wellspring to draw 3 more cards. At that point, I know I have a Carrion Feeder. Probably would have played that. Would have gotten a land for turn. Probably would have played whatever other creature I knew I would have. At least, if nothing else, getting value off of Impact Tremors. But then, at that point, I would be going wide. I'd even start swinging in with the Carrion Feeder, because the opponent's life points or the opponent's health points or whatever at this point in the game were low enough that I knew I'd be getting pressure from Impact Tremors, and I wanted to capitalize on any pressure I would have gotten for more creatures. So I was in, by the time that each of these games ended, I was in pretty good positions to do what I was doing. And yeah, sequencing was also really good in this particular game as well. I had much more open mana because I did everything kind of like at the beginning of my turn, so didn't have to be... It wasn't like I was holding a glass ball that would have shattered if I dropped it. It's more like I was holding a crystal ball, which would have cracked if I dropped it, and it would have lost a lot of value, but it wouldn't have shattered, is kind of what that looked like at the beginning of that turn with how many lands I have. But yeah, Thank you for watching. Hopefully this post-game analysis was interesting in some way, and hopefully you learned a little bit more about the MoggWarts combo. I will be looking to do more of these in the future. But until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.